The wind outside howled like a wild animal. Snow blew across the surface of the frozen moon like dust in a storm. Marcus pulled his thick coat tighter around his chest and stepped carefully into the half-buried cargo ship. It had crash-landed here years ago, maybe more. Now it was just metal bones. Forgotten by time and left to rust in the ice, he wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for scrap old tech, parts, anything he could sell. Life on the outer planets wasn't easy. And Marcus had debts, big debts, if he didn't find something. Valuable today, he might not see next week. Inside the ship was cold and dark. His flashlight cut through the shadows, showing wires hanging like dead vines and broken panels scattered on the floor. He moved carefully, breathing slow, his boots crunching on ice. Then he heard a soft sound, a gasp, like someone choking. He stopped moving, turned off the flashlight. Silence, then again, ha, please. Marcus felt his heart pound. Was it a ghost? A broken machine still playing a loop? Or something alive? He followed the sound deeper into the ship, past a hallway twisted by the crash, past a broken door jammed halfway open, and there, in the corner of what used to be a cargo room, was a large metal crate. It was covered in frost and wrapped with old chains and a thick tarp. The crate was moving just slightly, like something inside was trying to breathe. More gasping now, faint, weak, desperate. Marcus stepped closer. His hand trembled as he reached for the tarp. Could be a trap. He whispered to himself, but something in the way that gasping sounded like a child drowning made him ignore the warning. He pulled the tarp back and froze. Inside the crate was a figure, curled tightly. Skin pale blue with a faint glow under the surface. A breathing mask was cracked across her face, wires blinking red. She was wrapped in rags and straps, her arms shaking, eyes wide open but unfocused. An alien woman, barely alive. She gasped again, louder now, her mouth opening, trying to pull in air. Her body convulsed for a second, then dropped limp. Marcus stared, too shocked to move. Then something kicked inside him, instinct. Maybe he dropped his pack and climbed up on the crate. "I got you," he whispered. Not knowing if she could hear him, he tore the last of him. The tarp off, unclipped the chains, and tried to lift her. She was heavier than she looked. Tall and slim, but her body radiated cold, like she had been frozen for days, with all his strength. He pulled her out and wrapped his coat around her. Her skin was cold as ice, but he saw her chest still moving. Slowly, faintly but alive. "I don't know what you are," Marcus said as he dragged her across the hallway. "But you're not dying today." He reached his small ship, an old hauler with barely working heat. He laid her down near the engine core, the warmest spot. He connected oxygen to her cracked mask, hoping it would help. Her face twitched slightly, then her breathing slowed, more steady now. Marcus watched her carefully, sitting on the floor beside her. The glow in her skin began to brighten, just a little, like soft light underwater, for the first time. He saw her face clearly. She looked young, maybe his age, but not like any alien he had ever seen before. Her features were sharp, but graceful. Eyes large and golden, though still closed. Long silver strands of hair clung to her cheeks, frozen. In places, she looked like a statue from another world. Marcus shook his head. "This doesn't make sense," he said to himself. What was she doing in a crate, locked like that? He thought back to the whisper he'd heard, the faint word please. It wasn't a machine she had spoken. She had begged. Suddenly, her body jolted, and she gasped sharply. Her eyes flew open, golden and glowing, and locked on his. She tried to speak, but choked instead, grabbing at her chest. Then the breathing mask. Marcus leaned in, panic rising. Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. You're on my ship. I'm not going to hurt you. Her lips moved barely a whisper. Where? Is it? Marcus blinked. What? What do you mean? She tried again, her voice weaker. They took it. I can't leave without it. And then she passed out again, her body going limp. Marcus sat in stunned silence. What had he just stepped into? Who was she? And what had been taken? He didn't know yet, but something told him this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something much, much bigger. The hum of the ship's engine filled the small room. Marcus sat beside the unconscious alien woman, watching her chest rise and fall slowly. Steam rose from a cup of heated water in his hands, but he barely drank it. His eyes stayed locked on her, still trying to make sense of what had happened. She wasn't just some prisoner, she had spoken clearly. They took it. What was it? And why was she locked in a crate, buried on a dead moon? Marcus rubbed his tired eyes and checked her breathing mask again. It still hissed gently, feeding her a mix of oxygen and warmth. She looked peaceful now, like someone resting after a long fight. But her body was still too cold, too weak. She needed more than heat, she needed answers, and fast. Suddenly, her fingers twitched. Marcus leaned in quickly, heart racing, her golden eyes opened again. Slower this time, scanning the ceiling, then turning toward him. You're not one of them, she whispered, her voice like dry leaves in wind. No, Marcus said quietly. I found you in the wreckage. I'm just a scavenger. Her lips trembled. You opened the crate? He nodded. Yeah. You were barely breathing. A tear rolled down the side of her glowing cheek, vanishing into her silver hair. You shouldn't have opened it, she whispered. Now they'll know, Marcus frowned. Know what? She tried to sit up, her body shaking from the effort. He helped her gently, placing a folded blanket behind her back. When she was finally sitting, she looked into his eyes, serious and afraid. My name is Nara, she said slowly, and I'm not supposed to be alive. Marcus blinked, confused. You want to explain that? Nira looked down at her glowing hands, watching light flicker under her skin. They didn't lock me away because I'm dangerous, she said. They locked me away because I'm important. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Important? How? She hesitated, then reached into the folds of her clothing, pulling out a small, broken crystal shard. This, she said, was part of a bioseed, a living creation meant to restore life to dead planets. Marcus leaned closer, his curiosity deepening. It was grown from my DNA, she said softly. Because my bloodline carries a code older than most civilizations. Marcus stared at her. So you're some kind of royalty. Nira nodded slowly. Yes. But to some, I'm just a key, a tool. Her voice hardened. Sold by my own guards and handed over to scientists who plan to extract everything from me, then destroy me. He looked at the shard again, pulsed faintly in her palm. That's what they took. Nira's face turned pale. No, that's what I managed to keep. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The real bioseed was stolen, fully grown, fully active. If they corrupt it, it can wipe out all life instead of saving it. Marcus stood up, stepping back, shocked. You're telling me there's a planet killer out there now? Nara looked at him, sadness in her eyes, and it responds only to me. Silence filled the ship, heavy and cold. Marcus turned to stare out the small side window, watching the stars drift by. What happens if they find you again? He asked. They'll force me to activate it, she said, then silence me forever. Marcus clenched his jaw. Well, we're not going to let that happen. Nura tilted her head. Surprised, you barely know me. I know enough. Marcus said, you were locked in a crate, half dead. And you still care about what happens to others? He walked to the console and tapped the screen, scanning nearby signals. I don't have weapons. I don't have a crew. But I've got this old rust bucket and a little bit of fuel. He turned to face her. You tell me where to start, and I'll take you there. She smiled faintly, a fragile look that barely lasted. There's a signal I placed before I was captured. A small beacon hidden near the medical station where they took me. She winced, holding her side. It should still be active, but they'll be guarding it now. Marcus nodded. Then? That's where we're going. He walked over and held out his hand to her. She stared at it for a moment, then slowly reached up and took it. Her hand was still cold, but there was strength returning as he helped her to her feet. She whispered, "You may regret this." Marcus chuckled. "I regret everything, but I still do it anyway." For the first time since she woke up, Nara laughed. Soft and tired, but real. And together, they stepped toward the control room, not as strangers, but as the only hope for stopping something far worse than either of them had ever faced alone. Marcus had seen strange things in his life. Ancient ruins on dead moons, wild alien tech stuck in the belly of frozen ships. But nothing had ever felt like this, not even close. Nara stood beside him in the small cockpit, quiet, wrapped in a thermal blanket. She stared through the front window, her golden eyes lost in the stars ahead. They were heading toward the hidden beacon she had planted long ago. Marcus didn't know what to expect, but his gut told him things were about to get worse. Still, he didn't turn back. Something about her calm voice, her painful eyes, made him want to help, no matter the risk. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Marcus asked, tapping at the console. Nara nodded slowly. "The signal is faint, but it's still there." He looked over at her. "You said the bioseed can destroy planets if corrupted, right?" "Yes," she replied. "And that's not even the worst part." Marcus blinked. "What's worse than that?" Nara took a slow breath, her fingers touching her chest, right over her heart. "It's bonded to me," she whispered. "My blood carries the original code, the seed. Reads it like a command." Marcus frowned. "So they can't use it without you?" She turned to him, her expression dark. "No, they can use it. But they need me nearby alive for the first activation." Marcus narrowed his eyes, and after that, Tira said nothing, just stared out the window again. That silence was the answer. Marcus tightened his grip on the flight stick. "You really are carrying something heavy." Nira smiled sadly. "I've carried it since birth." Later, when the ship entered the outer belt near the ruined medical station, Marcus switched to manual controls. The asteroid field was too thick for autopilot, and too dangerous for someone still recovering. Nara sat strapped beside him, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "You said your bloodline was old," Marcus said, trying to understand more. "What does that mean?" Nara looked down at her hands. "Before the Union, before the great fleets and empires, there was a time when planets bloomed with life." She spoke softly, like telling an old memory. "My people were the ones who healed them, kept a balance. Not by machines, but through living energy. Biolight." Marcus nodded slowly, like organic tech. "Yes, but more than that," she said. "We didn't build machines to do the work. We were the power source." She opened her palm, and a faint blue glow sparked in the middle, dancing like water touched by sunlight. My bloodline was one of 7, each holding a seed of life. "What happened to the other 6? Marcus asked. Nara's glow faded, her voice turning bitter. "Destroyed, absorbed, or twisted." She looked up at him, her voice shaking. "The one they took from me isn't just dangerous, it's hungry now." Marcus felt his spine go cold. "Hungry for what?" "For destruction," she said. "Because it's no longer just a seed, it's been fed the code of death." As they reached the edge of the signal source, an old satellite beeped on screen. It was covered in damage, spinning slowly near a small gray asteroid. "That's it," Nira whispered. "My hidden station is beneath that rock." Marcus angled the ship and brought it in close, landing on a flat patch just behind a large ridge. As they stepped outside in full suits, Nira walked faster than before. Strength had returned to her steps. Though her body still carried pain, she led Marcus toward a hidden door in the rock, covered in dust and shadow, with a wave of her hand. The door lit up and slowly opened. Inside was a small, quiet room, dark screens, glowing crystals, and one central console still active. "This was my safe house," she said. Touching the side panel before they found me, she moved to a small table and picked up a device shaped like a bracelet. "This scans for seed activity," she said. Handing it to Marcus, "You'll need it if something happens to me." Marcus stared at it. "Wait, what do you mean?" Nira turned to him, eyes serious. "If I fall, you must find the seed and destroy it before they use it." Marcus shook his head. "We do this together." Nira nodded. But her face didn't relax. She had lived too long with betrayal, too. "Believe in easy promises." Suddenly, an alarm buzzed from the console. A red signal blinked, movement detected near the station's outer shell. Nira ran to the panel. Eyes wide. "They found us," she whispered. "They're already here, Marcus." Rushed to her side. "How many ships?" "3, she said, scanning the screen. "No identification. No beacon. They're silent hunters." Marcus cursed under his breath. "Then we run." Nara shook her head. "We can't." She touched the screen and showed him a blinking dot. One of the enemy's ships had docked nearby. "They're after the backup fragments stored here," she said. "It's enough to rebuild the whole seed." Marcus stepped back, pulling out the small tool pistol from his belt. "Then, I guess." Rowe looked at him with fire in her eyes. For the first time in years, she said, "I won't run either." As the walls of the cave hummed with the approach of danger, Marcus and Nara stood side by side, two lives pulled together by fate. Now standing in the center of a storm they could no longer escape. The air inside the hidden station grew heavy. Marcus could feel it. Like the space around them was holding its breath. Outside, silent ships moved like shadows. No lights, no signals, just black hulls against black space. Predators in the void, Narrows. Fingers danced across the console, her eyes scanning code faster than Marcus could follow. He stood behind her, watching the entrance with the old pistol in his hand. He had fixed star drives, bartered junk, fought off pirates, but never faced anything like this. "Do they know we're in here?" he asked quietly. Nira didn't answer right away. Her lips tightened as she stared at a blinking red dot that was moving closer. "They know," she whispered. "They've locked onto the biosignature." Marcus stepped closer to the entrance. "How long do we have?" Nara's voice was calm. Maybe 5 minutes. The walls of the station were old, cracked from age and pressure. They wouldn't survive a full assault. Marcus looked back at her. "You said there was a backup fragment here, right?" "We destroy it and run." Nira turned to face him, shaking her head. "It's not that simple," she said. "If I destroy it, it sends out a final signal. It tells them where the main seed is hidden." Marcus blinked. "Wait, you know where the real seed is?" Nira nodded slowly. "Yes, but if they get the signal, there'll be a race we can't win." A loud sound echoed through the station, metal grinding on stone. They were here. Nara's skin began to glow again, the light tracing soft patterns under her skin. Marcus stared at her hands. "That always happen when you're scared." "It happens when I'm ready," she replied, her voice sharper now, more alive. The entrance hissed as the outer lock disengaged. Marcus raised the pistol, but Nira grabbed his wrist. "Stay hidden," she whispered. "You're not the one they want." "I'm not leaving you," he said firmly. She stared at him for a moment, then nodded once, her eyes softening. Footsteps echoed down the tunnel, slow, steady, cold. Then came the voice. "Nira," it called, deep and smooth like ice cracking underwater. "You've made this harder than it needed to be." Nira stepped forward, standing tall in front of the console. "I was never yours to take," she shouted, "and I won't let you corrupt the seed." A figure stepped into the room, tall, wrapped in black armor that pulsed with dull red light. His face was hidden by a helmet, but his voice came through crystal clear. "You don't get to choose anymore," he said. "You were designed to obey." Marcus stepped out from behind the console. Gun raised. "She's not alone," he said, "and you're not taking her." The figure turned his head toward Marcus, a human scavenger. He laughed. "You think you can protect her?" "I already did," Marcus said. "I pulled her out of that crate when you left her to die." The armored man paused, then slowly reached for a small orb at his waist. "You should have left her there," he said, pressing a button. The orb glowed on. The backup fragment behind the wall began to pulse violently. Nira gasped. He activated the override. Marcus turned to her. "What happens now?" "If the fragment finishes booting," she said, "it will overwrite the main seed's codon, turn it into a planetary weapon." Marcus looked around. "Can we shut it down?" Nira's hands moved fast across the console. "I can try, but I need time." Marcus turned back to the attacker. "Then I'll buy you some." The armored figure lunged forward, moving fast for someone so heavy. Marcus fired once, twice. Sparks flying off the armor, but it didn't stop him. Marcus was knocked back into a wall. Breath knocked from his lungs. The pistol skidding across the floor, the attacker moved toward Nira now. Raising his hand ready to fire a pulse shot, Nira didn't back away. Instead, she reached into her chest pocket and pulled out the crystal shard she had saved. The moment it hit the air, her entire body lit up like a star. The attacker paused, hesitating. "You wouldn't," he growled. Nira's voice was steady. "If you take one more step, I'll merge this shard with the backup and burn the seed out of existence." "You'd die," he said. "I'd rather die free," she replied. "Then be your key again." For a moment, the room held still. Nothing moved, not even breath. Then boom, a sharp blast from the hallway. Marcus had crawled to the side and used his tools to ignite a pressurized fuel canister. Flames and smoke filled the tunnel, blocking the view. Nira threw the shard to Marcus. "Go. Get to the ship." "What about you?" he shouted. "I'll follow," she cried, smashing the console as sparks exploded around her. The backup fragment blinked violently, then dimmed power cut. Code erased. She had done it. Marcus ran for the stars blurred past the window as Marcus's ship jumped into silent drift mode. The engines cooled, the lights dimmed, and only the hum of life support remained. Inside, both Marcus and Nira sat quietly. The fire of battle still burning behind their eyes, but ahead of them lay something worse, a place Nira hoped never to see again. "The lab is hidden inside a dead moon," Nira said, her voice low. "It used to be a medical facility for the Union." Marcus nodded slowly, checking their fuel levels. "And now? It's a lab for breaking people like me," she whispered, "and corrupting things that should never be touched." Nira's glow had dimmed since they left the station. Her body was tired, but her mind was sharp. She knew the enemy would not give up, not now, not after losing the backup seed. They would go straight to the source, and so would she. "We'll go quiet," Marcus said. Plotting a course, no lights, no pings. Nira touched his shoulder. "If we go in, we may not come out." Marcus gave a dry smile. "Sounds like every plan I've ever had." Hours later, the dead moon came into view, gray, cracked, and lifeless. It floated in the cold black like a broken tooth, forgotten by time. But deep beneath its surface was the real danger. "There," Nira pointed. "That's the old crater. The lab's entrance is beneath it. Marcus brought the ship down slowly. Landing behind a jagged ridge of stone, he powered down everything. Except life support. No signals, no lights, no sound as they stepped out. The air was still, the dust untouched. No guards, no drones, no movement, too quiet. Nira placed her hand on a hidden panel in the rock. It read her glow instantly, and a circular door hissed open, revealing a long metal tunnel that descended. Into darkness, the silence inside the tunnel felt like a warning. Marcus walked behind her, his grip tight on the stolen pulse rifle. Nira moved slowly, eyes alert, her breathing steady, when they reached the bottom. The door opened into a large underground chamber, once bright and sterile. Now ruined and cold, broken monitors, cracked glass tubes, flickering lights on walls, covered in dust and strange red stains. Nira's voice was calm, but distant. "This is where they drained the first generation." Marcus looked around, confused. "First generation." "Other carriers," she said softly. Before me, she walked over to a locked vault. Placing both palms on the glowing pad, the door opened with a soft click, revealing a tall glass container. Sealed tight with thick energy locks inside, floated the main bioseed its form, pulsing gently like a sleeping heart. But its color was wrong, too dark, almost bruised. Nira's eyes filled with pain. "They've already started the corruption," she whispered. "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. She turned to him, voice trembling. "It means if they finish the last stage, it won't just fail to heal planet Sit, we'll devour them." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Then we stop them here." He raised the pulse rifle. "I'll shoot the damn thing if I have to." Nira stepped in front of him. "If you break the glass now, the energy will escape and link to the nearest code source." Marcus frowned. "And that's you." She nodded. "It would burn me from the inside out." Suddenly, they heard movement, metal boots striking steel floors, guards, fast and many. Nira pulled Marcus into the side hall, both of them ducking low behind a broken table. She handed him a small device, shaped like a coin. "Place this on the seed when I give." "The signal? What does it do?" He whispered. "It rewrites the root command, wipes the corruption, and resets the seed to neutral." Marcus stared at her. "That'll work?" Nira looked down. "Only if I stay connected to it while it resets." Marcus's eyes widened. "Nerono, there has to be another way. There's no time," she said, her voice firm. "If they finish the final imprint, it's over." Footsteps neared. Voices calling out in another language, harsh and sharp. Nira stood slowly, stepped into the center of the lab, and raised her glowing hands. "I'm here," she shouted, her voice echoing. "Come and take me, if you dare." The guards rushed in, weapons raised. Marcus crawled along the edge of the lab. Heart pounding, he reached the container and placed the device against the glass. It beeped once, then began to glow blue. Nira closed her eyes and began to hum a low, ancient sound. Her glow spread from her skin to the floor, then up the glass of the seed chamber. It reached the seed, and the darkness inside it began to fade, replaced by soft golden light. The guards hesitated, confused. One of them shouted, "She's triggering a cleanse." Another screamed, "Break the link!" They fired, but too late. The golden light burst from the chamber. Throwing them all back, Nira dropped to her knees, body shaking. Marcus ran to her. Catching her before she hit the floor, the seed now floated, calm, green, and alive again. But Nira looked pale, her eyes barely open. "You did it," Marcus said, holding her close. Nira smiled weakly. "I kept my promise." Alarms began to blare. Auto-destruct activated. The lab was collapsing. Marcus lifted her in his arms, running through smoke and sparks, heart pounding like a drum. They reached the ship just as fire burst from the tunnel behind them. Marcus launched into space, breathing hard, Nira safe in his arms. And for a moment, just a moment, the stars looked peaceful again. Marcus sat in the pilot's seat, sweat dripping from his forehead. His arms ached, his chest burned, but he didn't. Nera was alive, lying on a small med bed behind him. Breathing slow but steady. The bioseed sat locked inside a containment pod. Glowing soft green again, like a heartbeat returned to life. He had saved her, and she had saved the galaxy. But it wasn't over, not yet. Suddenly, the console blinked red. Multiple signatures approaching. The ship's voice warned, Marcus. Cursed, slamming his hand against the console, they found us again. Nera stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open. Where are we? Marcus turned back, forcing a smile. Safe for now, but we've got company. She slowly sat up, gripping the wall for balance. Her glow was faint, almost gone, but her spirit was still there. They won't stop, she said. Not as long as the seed exists. Marcus looked at the containment pod, then at her. There's no way to destroy it, is there? Nera shook her head. If we destroy it, the galaxy loses its last chance to heal. The last seed of life. Marcus sighed, staring into space. So either we run forever, or they take it. Nera's voice dropped low. There's one more. Way. But it's not something I wanted to ask you. Marcus turned to her. Ask me anyway. She walked over to the pod, touching the glass. I can merge with it. She whispered, fuse my living code with the seed permanently. Marcus stood quickly. What does that mean? It means I become part of it, she said. No longer hunted, no longer separate. But I also stop being me. His chest tightened. Nera, you can't. I was born for this, she said softly. But after meeting you, I hoped I wouldn't have to. He took a step closer, shaking his head. No. There's got to be another way. You deserve to live. Not just exist inside some glowing ball. Nera looked at him with deep, golden eyes. I felt alive when you found me, she whispered. Not in the lab, not in the crate, not even with the seed, but with you. The ship jolted, warning lights flashing. Marcus checked the radar. 2 enemy ships, closing in fast. Weapons armed, they had no chance in a fight. No speed to run, no shields to hide. Nera walked to the containment pod and opened the panel. I'll rewrite the seed's core from inside. They won't be able to track it anymore. You're talking like you're saying goodbye, Marcus said, his voice cracking. She touched his cheek. I'm talking like someone who finally met someone worth saying goodbye to. Tears formed in Marcus's eyes, but he didn't stop her. He just asked, will I ever see you again? Nera smiled. Look at every new flower, every green planet, every healed wound, and you'll see me. Then, without waiting, she stepped into the pod. The light wrapped around her like a blanket. Her body lifted off the floor, her skin glowing. Brighter than ever before, her hair floated like silver flames, her eyes closed in peace. The seed pulsed once, then twice, then released a soft wave of energy that spread across the ship. All systems reset. The alarm stopped. Marcus stared at the pod, now sealed, silent, glowing, calm green, narrow. He whispered, no answer, but the ship suddenly changed course. The nav systems lit up, showing a new destination, one deep in a quiet star system. Untouched, the seed had made a choice, and it was guiding him there. Outside, the 2 enemy ships blinked out, vanished from the radar like ghosts. No weapons fired, no chase. They had lost the signal. Inside, Marcus sat in silence, his hand pressed against the glass of the pod. You didn't just save the galaxy, he whispered. You saved me 2 days past. The ship entered orbit around a quiet golden world, rich with forests, rivers, and sky. The perfect place to plant hope, to begin again. Marcus built a small outpost near a lake, using old parts, memory, and stubborn love. He placed the seed chamber in the heart of it, where it glowed like a beacon, sometimes at night. He heard a soft hum, familiar, comforting, alive, and once, in the still water. He saw a reflection standing beside him, golden eyes, silver hair. Warm smile, Nera, not a ghost, not a dream, but part of something bigger now. And he knew her choice wasn't the end, it was a beginning. The wind moved gently through the golden trees. The lake shimmered under the rising sun, and deep in the heart of the small outpost, the seed chamber pulsed like a sleeping star. Marcus stepped out of the metal hut he called home, breathing in the clean air of the untouched planet. This world had no name yet, but to him, it was everything. He looked at the pod again, still glowing with that soft green light. It had been weeks since Nera merged with the seed, and though she hadn't spoken a word since, Marcus still felt her everywhere, in the wind that danced through the trees, in the calm waters of the lake, in the warmth that never faded from the air. Even at night, this planet was healing already. Life had started to bloom on its own flowers opening, strange vines growing from cracks in the soil. It wasn't magic, and it wasn't technology. It was her, Nera. Marcus placed a hand on the pod and closed his eyes. "I'm still here," he whispered. "Still building the place you dreamed about, behind the outpost." A small garden had begun to grow, not just food, but beauty blue flowers from forgotten worlds. Glowing leaves from alien forests, Marcus planted them carefully. Remembering every story Nera had shared with him about planets now lost, this was his way of keeping her stories alive. One morning, as Marcus fixed a loose panel near the base of the outpost, the pod blinked. Not its usual slow pulse, but a sharp flash. He turned quickly, wiping sweat from his brow. The seed chamber glowed brighter than ever before, and from it came a sound, not just energy, but voice. Marcus, he froze, his hands trembling, that voice to his hers. He ran to the pod, placing both hands on the glass. "Nera, is it really you?" The light inside shimmered and formed a shape, a figure made of glow and memory. Not her full body, not physical, but real enough to see, to hear, to feel. "I can't come back," she said softly, not like before. Marcus swallowed hard. "I know, but I can still speak to you," she continued, "through the seed. Through the life we create here." Tears welled in his eyes, but he smiled. "You're still with me." Nera's form flickered gently, almost like she was smiling too. "You kept your promise, Marcus. You gave this world a second chance." He looked around at the fields, the sky, the trees starting to bloom. "It's just the beginning," he said. "You'd be proud of it." "I am," she replied, "and I want to give you something more." The pod released a small compartment at its base. Inside was a glowing crystal, the last piece of her code not merged into the seed. Marcus picked it up carefully, and it glowed gently in his palm. "With this," she said, "you can grow other seeds, not from me, but from the new code, the one we created." Together, Marcus stared at it. "You mean we can bring life back to other dead worlds?" "Yes," she said, "but only if we protect it, guide it, and teach others not to repeat the mistakes of before." Marcus nodded slowly, holding the crystal like a precious child. "I'll do it," he said, "for you, for this planet, for all the others who never had a choice." Nera's form began to fade gently, her light returning to the seed. "I'll always be watching, Marcus," she whispered. "You changed the code." And then she was gone again, peaceful, quiet, but never far. Years passed. Marcus built a network of outposts, small ships, and quiet gardens across forgotten moons and silent planets. Everywhere he went, he planted a piece of the new code, and everywhere he planted, life returned. Alien species once thought extinct came to these worlds to start over. Refugees, survivors, lost tribes, they all followed the legend of the man with the green light. The man who carried life in his hands. The man who had loved something so deeply, He refused to let it die. They never knew her name, not all of them. But he always told her story by the fire, under the stars, of the alien woman locked in a crate, who gasped for air, who whispered for help, and who became the heartbeat of new worlds. He never took credit, never claimed to be a hero. He only said one thing when people asked why he kept going: because someone gave me a chance when I was nobody. And I gave it back to her, and that was enough.